Welcome, seekers of the strange, to Untold Stories, the place where shadows spill their secrets and the whispers of the unknown come to life. I'm your guide into the abyss, and tonight, we're stepping into a tale so chilling, so shrouded in mystery, it'll claw its way into your nightmares. It's called the Bohemian Grove, Whispers in the Shadows. Picture this, a moonless night, a cryptic invitation, and a journalist named Jordan lured into the heart of a redwood forest where the elite gather under the watchful eyes of owls that don't just watch, but hunger. What starts as a quest for truth twists into a descent through flickering bonfires, guttural chants, and rituals that awaken something ancient, something monstrous. But here's the catch, you'll have to stick with us to uncover the full, spine-chilling truth. Will Jordan escape the grove's grip, or become its next offering? Hit that like button if you're ready to dive into the darkness, and subscribe to Untold Stories, because trust me, you won't want to miss a single whisper of what's coming next. Now, let's step into the shadows, together. The invitation arrived on a moonless night, slipped under the door of Jordan's cramped apartment like a silent predator. It was an ornate card, its edges curling as if aged by centuries, embossed with an owl's piercing, unblinking eyes and the cryptic words, "The Bohemian Grove awaits." Jordan, a struggling journalist with ink-stained fingers and a hunger for truth, had heard the whispers of the Grove, a secretive retreat nestled in the shadowed heart of Northern California's redwood forest. The rumors spoke of politicians, billionaires, and artists converging there, their motives cloaked in enigma. Some called it a playground for the powerful, others hinted at something far darker. This was Jordan's chance to peel back the veil. The instructions were stark and chilling: arrive at midnight, alone, and bring nothing but the clothes on their back, no phone, no camera, no lifeline to the outside world. Jordan's beat-up sedan rattled along the winding forest roads, the towering redwoods looming like silent sentinels, their gnarled branches clawing at the sky. The deeper they drove, the colder the air grew, seeping through the car's cracked windows. The forest seemed to tighten its grip, the trees pressing closer, their shadows twisting into grotesque shapes that flickered in the headlights. By the time Jordan reached the edge of the grove's unmarked boundary, their hands trembled on the steering wheel. A hooded figure emerged from the darkness, holding a lantern that cast a sickly yellow glow. Its face was obscured, swallowed by the cowl, and it gestured wordlessly for Jordan to follow. They abandoned the car and stepped into the woods, the crunch of pine needles underfoot drowned by the rising howl of the wind, or perhaps something else. The figure led them deeper, past skeletal trees dripping with moss that glistened like wet flesh, until the air grew thick with the scent of burning wood and a sharp, metallic tang that stung Jordan's nostrils. The grove unfurled before them, a scene ripped from a nightmare. Massive bonfires roared, their flames clawing at the sky, casting flickering shadows that danced across the ancient redwoods like specters. The trees themselves seemed alive, their bark etched with faint, spiraling runes that pulsed faintly in the firelight. Distant chanting rolled through the forest, a low, guttural rhythm that burrowed into Jordan's skull, growing louder and more insistent as they neared a vast clearing. There, the heart of the grove revealed itself, hundreds of men draped in dark robes, their faces hidden behind masks carved into the likeness of owls, their eyes hollow and glinting. They formed a perfect circle around a towering stone altar, its surface stained with dark, glistening streaks that Jordan prayed were not what they seemed. The hooded guide pressed a robe and mask into Jordan's hands, the fabric coarse and heavy, smelling faintly of mildew and blood. "Put these on," they whispered, their voice a hollow rasp that echoed unnaturally. "And whatever you do, don't speak." Jordan obeyed, slipping into the disguise as their pulse hammered in their ears. The mask's interior was cold against their skin, its owl-like features distorting their vision into a tunnel of shadowed faces. They joined the circle, swallowed by the sea of robes, and the chanting swelled into a frenzied hymn, the words alien and jagged, tearing at the edges of comprehension. The air grew heavy, pressing down on Jordan's chest as the chant reached a deafening crescendo. Then, abruptly, silence fell, thick and suffocating. The crowd parted like a wound, and a figure emerged from the shadows, a man clad in an elaborate owl mask, its feathers glinting like sharpened blades. His robe shimmered with golden symbols that writhed faintly, as if alive, and he gripped a staff crowned with a crystal that pulsed with a dim, sickly light. His presence was a void, an otherworldly weight that made the air shiver. "Brothers," he intoned, his voice reverberating through the clearing, unnaturally deep and layered, as if spoken by many mouths. "The time has come to awaken the Ancient One." The crowd erupted in a roar of approval, their voices a tide of fanatic glee. Jordan's stomach churned as a chill slithered down their spine. They watched, frozen, as two robed figures dragged a bound man into the circle. His wrists were lashed with coarse rope, his mouth gagged with a stained cloth, and his wild, pleading eyes darted across the masked faces. He thrashed against his captors, his muffled screams swallowed by the night. The leader raised his staff, and the crystal flared brighter, bathing the clearing in a nauseating green glow. Shadows stretched and twisted, forming impossible shapes along the ground. "We offer this sacrifice to the great owl," he declared, his voice trembling with reverence. "May it grant us power, wealth, and dominion over the world." The dagger in his hand gleamed as he plunged it into the man's chest, the blade sinking with a wet, sickening crunch. Blood sprayed across the altar, pooling in the carved grooves, and the crowd exploded into ecstatic cheers, their voices a discordant symphony of madness. The crystal pulsed violently, its light shifting to a deep crimson, and the air warped, heavy with a presence Jordan could feel in their bones. But the horror was only beginning. The ground shuddered beneath their feet, a low rumble that grew into a violent quake. The redwoods swayed as if caught in a storm, their branches snapping with sharp, bone-like cracks. A deep, guttural roar tore through the forest, rattling Jordan's teeth, and the leader raised his arms, his mask gleaming with sweat. "It is here. The Ancient One awakens," he cried, his voice cracking with a mix of terror and triumph. Jordan's vision blurred as a colossal shadow unfurled from the darkness beyond the clearing. It was a creature born of nightmare, a monstrous owl, its feathers matted and black as tar, its wings stretching into an abyss that swallowed the stars. Its eyes blazed red, twin furnaces of malice, and its beak parted to reveal rows of jagged, glistening teeth. A screech erupted from its maw, a sound so piercing it drove several robed figures to their knees, clutching their ears as blood trickled from beneath their masks. Panic seized the crowd, but Jordan couldn't move. The creature's gaze locked onto them, its eyes boring into their soul with an icy, paralyzing grip. A cacophony of whispers flooded their mind, ancient, hateful voices overlapping in a language that clawed at their sanity. "You have witnessed the ritual," the creature hissed, its words echoing inside their skull. "You are mine now." Jordan's knees buckled as the whispers grew louder, promising torment, promising eternity. Before they could scream, a new horror unfolded. The leader stepped forward, trembling, and knelt before the creature. "Great One, we beseech your favor," he pleaded, pulling a small, rusted box from his robe. He pried it open, revealing a writhing mass of black tendrils that pulsed like living veins. With a chant, he hurled the box onto the altar, and the tendrils erupted, latching onto the dead man's body. The corpse twitched, its limbs jerking unnaturally as the tendrils burrowed into its flesh. Its eyes snapped open, milky and blind, and it rose, staggering toward the crowd with a guttural moan. The robed figures cheered again, some falling to their knees in worship as the reanimated thing lurched forward, dripping with dark ichor. The creature screeched once more, and the ground split open beneath the altar, revealing a chasm that glowed with a sickly orange light. From its depths came a chorus of wails, human and inhuman alike, rising like a tide of despair. Shadows writhed within, clawing upward, and Jordan glimpsed skeletal hands reaching from the pit, their fingers tipped with blackened nails. The leader turned to the crowd, his voice manic. "The grove demands more. Feed the rift, or it takes us all." Several robed figures broke ranks, seizing one of their own, a man who had hesitated, his mask slipping to reveal a face pale with terror. They dragged him screaming to the edge of the chasm and hurled him in. The wails intensified, and the ground steadied, the creature's eyes flaring brighter. Jordan realized with dawning dread that this was no mere ritual, it was a cycle, a feeding, an endless appeasement of something ancient and insatiable. They turned to flee, but the creature's talons lashed out, impossibly fast, grazing their shoulder with a searing pain that dropped them to their knees. The whispers surged, drowning their thoughts, and the world tilted as darkness closed in. The last thing Jordan saw was the creature looming over them, its beak parting in a grotesque mockery of a smile, and the reanimated corpse shambling closer, its dead eyes fixed on them with an unspoken hunger.